The first equipment arrives at TSMC's Arizona facility, but there are concerns in Taiwan the country's global edge in chips is under threat. North Korea continues to test its weapons, firing over 100 rounds of artillery into the sea. Sky-high prices, why some families may not be able to celebrate the holidays together. Plus, meet Taiwan's Singing Soldiers, a military band that's making a splash in Taiwan's rock scene. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Erika Liu. The factory of Taiwanese semiconductor giant TSMC in the U.S. state of Arizona is gearing up for its Toolin ceremony. U.S. President Joe Biden is set to attend the event, which indicates the installation of essential chip-making equipment at the under-construction plant has begun. But in Taiwan, the ceremony is refocusing concerns that the U.S. facility could undermine Taiwan's position at the top of the global chip industry. James Chater reports.
This is Taiwanese semiconductor giant TSMC's plant in the U.S. state of Arizona. It's about to hold its tool-in ceremony, marking the installation of the facility's first chip-making equipment, and U.S. President Joe Biden is set to attend. The $12 billion Arizona facility is at the heart of Washington's efforts to onshore chip-making capacity, the brains of modern electronics. But more than 90% of the world's most advanced chips are produced in Taiwan, where there are now concerns that the country's position at the top of the global chip supply chain could be undermined by TSMC's Arizona plant.
现在种种的迹象，尤其是赴美建设先进厂的速度，其实比我们还快。
有没有秘密协议可以斩钉截铁地告诉委员？没有，这个是我们台湾工业实力的那个对外的这个扩展。
Supply chain shocks during the pandemic alerted the US government to the depth of its foreign chip dependencies. It prompted US lawmakers to pass the CHIPS Act in July to subsidize domestic chip production and wean the country off overseas sources.
Package includes more than $50 billion to bolster America's manufacturing of semiconductors, seizing the pivotal opportunity to restore our status as world leader in chips.
But some analysts say Taiwan's chip dominance acts as a silicon shield, deterring China, which claims Taiwan as part of its territory, from taking military action. They say offshoring production to the US won't deepen Taiwan's resilience, but dilute it. TSMC initially said the Arizona plant would make 5nm chips, a generation behind the most sophisticated now being made in Taiwan. But TSMC founder Morris Chang recently announced that more advanced 3nm chips would also be made in the US. Despite that, Taiwanese officials insist the country's world-leading status is secure.
那台积电也很清楚提到，最先进的一定会在台湾。 所以我想，这个趋势，这样的情形是不会变的。
The head of Taiwan's Hsinchu Science Park has now announced that TSMC will build a 1nm facility in northern Taiwan. But despite reassurances, the Arizona plant is stoking Taiwanese fears that competitors are chipping away at the country's semiconductor dominance. Karma Xu and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
The leader of a Polish delegation to Taiwan has encouraged Taiwanese chip companies to set up factories in his country. Polish lawmaker Waldemar Onzel is leading a delegation of 8 parliamentarians on a 5-day trip to Taiwan. On Tuesday, they met with President Tsai Ing-wen. Onzel urged closer economic cooperation between the two countries. Taiwan and Poland in September signed a memorandum of understanding on semiconductors and microelectronics. Taiwan's military is making changes to its training program for reservists. The Ministry of National Defense says that next year's drills will increase the number of training positions to 22,000, up from 15,000. The military also says that it's more than doubling the amount of time reservists spend practicing shooting, as well as increasing the number of rounds they can fire during training. Taiwan's reservists train for 14 days. There have been calls to extend the drills as the country faces growing military pressure from China. Elsewhere in Asia, North Korea says it will continue with artillery drills along its coastline after firing over 130 shells into the ocean on Monday. Pyongyang says the drills are a response to South Korea's military activity. So far this year, North Korea has conducted several artillery drills and tested roughly 70 missiles, including long-range ICBMs, capable of hitting the United States. Some experts believe that the authoritarian regime could be gearing up for a nuclear test. For more on the recent developments in the Korean Peninsula, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Robert York, Director of Regional Affairs at the Pacific Forum based in Hawaii.
Recently, a new wave of sanctions was announced on North Korea. Will this change anything regarding the way it goes about testing its missiles?
Sanctions should be looked at as something that are necessary but not sufficient. There's always the question of how well they are being enforced, and unfortunately, the vast majority of sanctions and evading activities tend to take place in Chinese territory, and in places where the U.S. really is unable to enforce them. So there are some that happen in places outside of Chinese territory, other partner countries in Asia, where the U.S. could be more active, there could be more attention placed, and there really could be a much greater focus on these activities in general. I think the Biden administration has been quite distracted by other events that are happening domestically and elsewhere. And as a result, sanctions impeachment has not been what it should be. The recent sanctions, it's good to see South Korea and Japan and the US working together on this issue, of course, but that's not going to actually change North Korean behavior.
Can you talk about the reason behind this year's record amount of weapons tests? Why is there so many, and is there a nuclear test imminent?
That is something that's really known only by them, but we have seen a shift definitely in emphasis. Kim Jong-un has talked about the need for a final victory, for instance, and kind of suggested that North Korean nuclear activities are no longer just for defense in and of themselves. If it was just for defense, they established their ability to deter any outside attack a long time ago. So consistently building out their capacity, it's the reasons for them doing that go beyond deterrence, and they are talking more and more about their offensive capabilities. But
that was Jaime Ocon speaking to Robert York of the Pacific Forum. Thousands of Taiwanese living in China want to come home for the Lunar New Year holidays in January, but they could face a roadblock: record high airline prices. It may prevent many from being able to celebrate with their families. Bing Wang reports.
Taiwanese businessman Xu Zhenwen works in China for most of the year. Along with thousands of people, Xu is planning on returning to Taiwan in January for the Lunar New Year holidays, but he's worried that it could prove difficult.
返乡过节的机票涨得非常的离谱，因为可能航班少，因为航点也少。
Round-trip tickets from Shanghai to Taiwan's main international airport could cost up to 70,000 NT dollars or almost 2,300 US dollars. That's just for one economy seat on a flight that's only 2 hours long. Right now, Taiwan only receives around 10 flights from China per day, and ticket prices are soaring at an unprecedented rate.
像北京、上海、厦门跟成都，那会有个状况是，你就这4个航点在飞的时候，第一个班次少。
Taiwan's transport minister says the government will work on adding more flights to lower prices.
因为它航空票价是世界性的，尤其国际的哈，国际的很难，因为你比如说你把它降了，可是北航公司这个不降哈，所以我是觉得这个部分就由他们按照这个量哈来做一些调整。
To celebrate with family, as is tradition, thousands of Taiwanese expats are expected to fly home for Lunar New Year holidays next month. But unless ticket costs come down, people may have to make alternative plans or cancel them altogether. Damon Lin and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has confirmed its second ever case of the H1N2V swine flu virus in a human. The case came to light in October after a child from a farming family went to hospital with flu symptoms. Doctors were initially unable to identify the virus, but genetic sequencing later confirmed it as H1N2V. Health officials have traced 6 contacts, but none have tested positive for the virus. Samples from animals on the family farm have also come back negative. Officials say they have informed the World Health Organization. Taiwan's only other known case was in 2021 and also involved a child from a farming family. Less than 2 weeks ago, President Tsai Ing-wen stepped down as chair of Taiwan's ruling party. Now her second-in-command may be eyeing the role. Vice President Lai has not ruled out running for a position that could help him become his party's next presidential candidate. Stash Butler has the story.
Everywhere he goes, Lai Ching-te gets asked the same question. Taiwan's vice president is seen as the frontrunner for the leadership of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. The role is up for grabs after President Tsai Ing-wen stepped down in response to a bruising defeat in last month's local elections. Whoever takes over as chair would have a good shot at becoming the party's nominee for president. Tsai Ing-wen has reached her term limit, and the election to replace her is in just over a year. Lai already has the backing of 2 lawmakers.
个人是蛮赞同的，因为这个主席是要承担、要检讨、改进、再出发。
我想现在并没有一个确定的答案，不过这个也是赖清德副总统一个责任赞成反对的声音他都听到，他也都了解他必须要做一个综合性的一个思考。
But the VP himself says he's still on the fence. In a statement, Lai said he had received encouragement from many people, but some have also expressed reservations. The vice president says he has not yet made a decision about whether to run. The party's interim chair, Chen Chi-mai, is staying out of the discussion.
人选不评论，好不好？因为我要维持选务的公正，也不晓得还有谁要选。
Chen says he wants the next chair in place by mid-January. So the next 6 weeks will decide the party's leadership for the coming year and lay the groundwork for a future without Tsai Ing-wen. Damon Lin and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, we visit southern Taiwan to find out why local oyster farmers are worried about the future. Stay tuned.
It's Sharon here on Legit Mando. Today we're teaching the Mandarin word.
我可以拜托你一件事哦，我求求你。
拜托。
Please, please, I beg you.
我们来哈拉2句啦。要聊什么？
我是你的妈鸡吗
Just love your maji. Life is short anyways.
太狂了吧
And use these to respond to literally anything you already sound like a Taiwanese.
Legit Mando, Monday to Friday, 7:50 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Taiwan Plus. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the Taiwan Plus app. We're about the same size.
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. In southern Taiwan, farmers are having to deal with a disastrous oyster yield. Bad weather, poor water quality, and over-farming have left farmers with barely any oysters to sell. Sam Robbins reports.
Dongshi Township is a coastal village in southern Taiwan. It is home to some of the country's largest oyster farms. By this time of year, farmers should have collected and sold their oysters. But this season, things are different. Oyster farmers are now reporting that more than half of their yield is dead or dying. Dongshi Township and neighboring Budai Township are the heart of Taiwan's oyster fishing industry. Harvest season usually runs from May to September. But with poor weather conditions and unusual water temperatures, this year's harvest is reportedly only a third of the standard annual yield. Many farmers are now looking for outside assistance.
政府帮我们富养啦，爱发寡迄个富养金，互阮较有钱，通去来买些鹅肝什么落去饲啊。
A kilogram of oysters can sell for about $10. On average, over 10,000 kilograms are sold each day in Dongshi and Budai alone. The estimated total losses from this year's poor yield are expected to be over $32,000. Part of the problem comes from climate change, but researchers think that some of the other main causes may lie closer to home.
也许因为生殖器的关系，密度比较高，健康状况可能就会比较不好，那所以就会造成大量死亡的一个现象。
Although denser farms can produce higher yields, they also make the oysters much more sensitive to climate shifts. Poor water quality in the region may also partly explain the reduced harvest. Farmers across Taiwan are struggling to deal with export bans, climate change, and rural labor shortages. Oysters should be a source of prosperity in Dongsha Township, but if conditions don't improve, the once thriving industry will have an uncertain future. Rick E. and Sam Robbins for TaiwanPlus.
China has held a 3-minute silence for former leader Jiang Zemin. At a service in China's legislature on Tuesday, President Xi Jinping praised Jiang for modernizing China's army. He also said Jiang had vigorously opposed Taiwan independence. Jiang led China's Communist Party from 1989 to 2002 and oversaw huge economic growth in China. The 96-year-old died of leukemia and multiple organ failure last week. His body was cremated Monday at a ceremony attended by Xi and also by former President Hu Jintao, who hadn't been seen in public since being taken off the stage for unknown reasons during a Communist Party Congress in October. Indonesia has banned sex outside marriage and unmarried couples from living together. The bans are part of changes to Indonesia's criminal code that lawmakers approved on Tuesday. Sex outside of marriage can be punished by up to a year in prison and cohabitation by 6 months. Charges can only be brought after a complaint is made by a person's spouse, parents, or children. The changes follow a rise in religious conservatism in recent years in Muslim-majority Indonesia. For more on the bans, TaiwanPlus reporter Louise Watt spoke to Andreas Harsono, senior researcher for Human Rights Watch in Jakarta.
How will this law work?
The debate had been going on since 1950. Basically, they want to introduce the word is zina in Indonesian. This Arabic word adopted into Indonesian, basically adultery. But it was resisted until now, basically, because it goes into a private life. And how many prisons will you build if, adultery is going to be criminalized? It can be punished up to 1 year, although the government argued that there are safeguards. An adultery is an adultery if a spouse or a parent reported the so-called suspect to the police. But again, it is entering into someone's private life.
What do you think the effects of this article criminalizing sex outside marriage will be?
The danger of oppressive laws is not they will be broadly applied. No, it won't be. It is that they provide avenue for selective enforcement. Many hotels, including in tourism areas like Bali or metropolitan like Jakarta, will not want to lose their customers. These laws let police extort bribes. The laws let officials jail political enemies, for instance, with the blasphemy article. The problem is Indonesia is seeing the rise of Muslim conservatism over the last 2 decades, whether from regular Muslim group or the more extreme association. And the production of this criminal code should be seen from that context.
Will it have any further effect on LGBT people in Indonesia?
Indonesia, until now, does not recognize gay marriage. It means the cohabitation article in this criminal code could be interpreted when needed to target or to arrest LGBT couples. They might be suspected of, quote unquote, living together. That's a crime. Maximum penalty is 6 months in prison.
That was Andreas Horsono, senior researcher for Human Rights Watch in Jakarta. The latest breakout act in Taiwan's rock scene is not the work of a big record label. Instead, it's the product of Taiwan's Air Force. John Van Trieste takes us to meet a military band that's taking over the airwaves.
Meet Taiwan's Singing Soldiers. Since 2018, these Air Force personnel on a base in Taiwan's southeast have been rocking out together after hours. They call themselves Tiger Band, in honor of the F-5 Tiger Fighter. The band started out as a way for them to relax after a long day on the job.
我们平常晚上都是在看书啊，或者是在寝室里面研读一些技令啊。那现在如果有这些时间的时候，他们在利用体能活动，或者是在晚自习中间的过程中，他们会来练团式，自己敲敲打打，自己弹弹乐器。哦，那对他们来讲，他们的那个心情的抒压是非常有用的。那整个人出来以后，好像焕然一新的感觉，因为他整个压力都释放掉。
Now they're premiering fresh works on YouTube and getting attention. Their latest song, Fly Into the Sky, is a salute to their comrades who protect Taiwan's airspace. The music video was filmed by Taiwan's military.
那我们虎团的目标就是希望说可以写出更多很励志的歌曲，就是鼓励，主要是鼓励我们自己军人，也能鼓励是可能想要从军，或是说可能对自己这片土地有很大的认同感的人，能够有一些感受跟认同感。
From fighter pilots and flight instructors to ground crew and military police, the band's members fill many different roles in their day jobs. Each has a different role to play in the band, too. But all are united in their work to safeguard Taiwan and keep up the spirits of those who wear its uniform. Howard Zhang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Researchers in southern Taiwan have dug up the giant fossilized skeleton of an ancient whale. The skeleton is about 15 meters long. It dates back around 85,000 years to the last ice age. The team hopes it will help scientists learn more about how whales have adapted to conditions since then. Taiwanese Sign Language interpreters are becoming more common in local media. They're part of many government events and in some news programs. Now, as Erika explains, they're taking a bigger role in the theater, too.
Signing along to the music. These performers are rehearsing for a production put on by New Taipei-based Mobius Strip Theater. To make the show more accessible to deaf audiences, they're including Taiwanese Sign Language interpreters as part of the cast. They call it theatrical interpretation.
那通常视行传译它就会跟一般手译员比较不一样，它的可能手语的姿势会比较大一点点，然后同时它也要进入剧场排练。
5 interpreters and 5 deaf actors trained for over a month for this project.
My sense of hearing isn't good, so I have to follow a hearing interpreter who interprets the lyrics and dialogue for me so I can express them myself.
不知道怎么把他们的口白换成手语，我觉得很难，都要问一些懂手语的人告诉我要怎么转换不动自然。
It was a learning experience for everyone involved, including their hearing castmates.
你会感觉到他们的速度跟自己的话有没有在同一个频率，所以有时候可能他们其实也在等我，我也在等他们，会是一起的感觉。还是就一起的。
This is all meant to break down barriers that deaf audience members face.
我觉得翻译员的角色就是帮忙在表演的当中，让聋人可以知道表演者在传达什么样的讯息，就是可以让你有演员的灵魂，可是又有翻译的品质。
The troupe hopes that by including theatrical interpretation in their shows, they can help more people enjoy the wonders of the theater. Eason Pan, Yvonne Yang, and Eric Liu for TaiwanPlus.
NASA's Artemis 1 spacecraft is rocketing back to Earth after a close flyby of the moon. Ryan Hill-Kilpatrick has more.
This is the closest a spacecraft built for humans has gotten to the moon in half a century. Winding its way back to Earth, the uncrewed Orion capsule of NASA's Artemis 1 mission sailed within 130 kilometers of the lunar surface. As its crew of mannequins begins its homeward journey, NASA scientists say the mission is on course for success.
Everything the vehicle has asked for us to do, it's done, and it's done phenomenally, right? So we've done all of the burns up till this point flawlessly. We've added some extra tests on it, even for the Plus X auxiliary engines test that we did, that performed flawlessly as well. So yeah, it's really great performance. I'm happy.
The Artemis program is aimed at bringing astronauts back to the moon this decade and establishing a sustainable base there that will be a stepping stone to future human exploration of Mars. Launched on November 16th from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, the spacecraft is expected to complete its loop around the moon and splash down back on Earth on December 11th. NASA crews have been training to recover the Orion space capsule at sea.
We still have a few primary objectives ahead. The mission is going very well. We've accomplished a number of bonus objectives above and beyond what we had planned pre-flight, but we still also have some risks ahead of us. We still have yet to accomplish the second half of our Priority 1 objective, which is to demonstrate the spacecraft at lunar reentry conditions, as well as Priority 3 objective, which is to retrieve the spacecraft post-splashdown.
Long awaited and much delayed, this successor to the historic Apollo program is heralding in the next generation of space exploration. Ryan Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.